Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dixon, and today we've got a very cool episode with Sydney Marvin. She is the founder of Stunner Safety, which is a 3-in-1 stun gun, pepper spray, and flashlight. Super interesting of how she got started. She just graduated from University of Texas at Austin a year ago, and she already has a product that she is selling and has some retail partners. And so we walk through her journey from kind of being in college and having some scary experiences to creating a product out of those experiences. And now it is something that is physical. She is actually selling it. And so we walk through her journey of going from idea to product and market. Really fascinating. So let's get Sydney on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Sydney, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of jump right in here. I got to see you at a pitch event a week or so ago, but maybe for the folks that weren't there that are listening to this, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're up to, and where you're located.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of a startup called Stunner Safety. We create high quality, stunning self-defense devices. Our main flagship product is a 3-in-1 stun gun, pepper spray, and flashlight. And we're located in Houston, Texas.
Got it. And so how did you come up with this idea? Let's talk about kind of the origin story. I'm always curious about, how people start businesses and the ideas and all of that.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Texas in Austin, and I started getting involved with the idea of entrepreneurship and startups while I was at school there. And also, at the same time, parallel to that, I had some scary experiences while I was in college. So several times I was in situations where I feared for my safety and even my life at times. Because a lot of times students are walking places or in unfamiliar places or have to walk home alone at night, that kind of thing. And so, with those two things going on, I learned about startups, and then I had some of those experiences. I decided after college to pursue creating a product that I thought was better suited for the situations that I went through in college.
Got it. And for those of you listening to this, her website is stunnersafety.com. So you can go check out the actual pictures of what the device looks like. It's very kind of cool as you look at it. I guess, creating a product is different than software. You've got to feel it, touch it, use it. And so there's probably potentially a lot more kind of things you've got to do in the front end, from a capital expenditure and testing. And, obviously this is something that is supposed to help protect people. So I imagine there's some regulations that has to go into what you can do and how you can do it. So, obviously having an idea is one thing, but taking it from idea to paper to then a physical product, kind of walk us through that journey and, lessons learned and potholes you wish you would have avoided, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, a physical product is very different than software. So when it comes to physical product, I agree that you have to put a lot more money upfront into prototyping the product, because I've learned that people don't understand what you're trying to make when you just try to explain it to them. So initially, I invested all my own money upfront to get the first MVP done of the product. And after people were able to hold it, test it, press the buttons, see how it functioned, then I got a more, detailed response that fits the needs of my business to understand what people liked and what they didn't like. So prototyping that product, took about a year and a half, and I had to, each round make a new one, see what people thought of it, get a response back, and then alter my design from there. So a lot of money up front for that. And then, in terms of regulation, everything else, you kind of have to be an expert in all of it. As a physical product, not just development, but the other aspects of the business as well.
And so your company's based in Houston. You went to school here in Austin, I think you said. And so, um, uh, where are you in the journey of your company? I know you've got a physical product that you showed at the pitch event, but is it being sold? Where are you in kind of that startup journey?
Yeah, so right now for Stunner Safety, we are selling to customers. We sell on our website, as you mentioned, stunnersafety.com, and we're also selling on Amazon. And we have our first official retail partner selling our product as well, the Home Security Superstore. So we are in production, we're shipping to customers, generating revenue, although still very early on. Basically, this first year I kind of took as a market validation of the product. So that's
Yeah.
where we're at.
Or where can you kind of share where you're creating it, where it's being manufactured, assembled? Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world right now with tariffs
Yes.
and all that fun stuff. We're recording this in kind of late February of 2025, so
Mhm.
there's some pending things happening in a geopolitical standpoint. So, is that impacting you in any way, or are you kind of thinking about that from a manufacturing and distribution standpoint?
Yeah, I think it will affect me. So the product right now is built and assembled in the United States, but we have parts made in China, India, and the US. So
Got it.
because the product requires so many different types of parts, circuit boards, electronics, plastic, and metal pieces, it's quite a big supply chain and everything we have to keep track of. There's a lot of line items, pieces, and that go into the product. So I do think that the potential tariffs, especially the Chinese tariffs that may be implemented, will affect the supply chain for my business. But the benefit of my business and my product is we're so small and we're so lean and we don't have a huge investment in like some major factory. I mean, this is all pretty much being done out of my place of residence.
Mm.
That we are able to move anything if we need to the United States. And especially now that the product's been in production, we know kind of the things that we need to look out for on the product in the supply chain. So I think the benefit of a startup is we can move things over very, very quickly to the United States if we need to, which is my ultimate plan anyway. I'd like to be the first stun gun made in the United States. I don't know of any stun guns made in the United States. And we are essentially at least one of the only potentially stun guns built and assembled in the United States right now.
Oh, that's interesting. So share a little bit about kind of the functionality of the product. Obviously, there's kind of three key ingredients, if you will, in the product, and obviously we're trying to describe this in black and white, for folks on a podcast and
Yeah.
everything. And so, kind of explain kind of what it is, how it works, and then what is some of the feedback that you're getting from users around things maybe that you're looking at as far as updates and upgrades to the product as you iterate and get past year one of kind of market validation.
Yeah, so the product is like I mentioned, a 3-in-1 stun gun, pepper spray, and flashlight. The reason we chose the stun gun and the pepper spray was to be able to provide a product with both longer distance and shorter distance defense. So the pepper spray, it's up on the top of the product. You push your thumb down like a normal pepper spray. It sprays out to a distance between 10 and 12 feet to defend you from something maybe you can see coming. The stun gun is on the front of the product. That is for up close. So say someone is already close to you and you're needing to defend yourself in within a foot of yourself already. All you do is we have a trigger on the stun gun, which is very unique. I don't actually know of any other stun guns that have this, where you just squeeze your hand on the trigger and it activates the stun gun. And of course, there are safeties for both of these things. So, what's another great thing about the stunner is there's a hole in the middle where the trigger is that you put your hand through, and so it's kind of like I don't know what you call it. A lot of people say it kind of looks like a dog leash in a way, a dog
Mm.
leash handle, but you put your hand through it like a handle, so it's a lot harder to take out of your hand if you're using it. So an attacker would have a harder time grabbing the product out of your hand because it has this hole through the middle. And last point about just the functionality and how it looks like everything faces the same way. So whether you use the pepper spray, flashlight, or stun gun, it all points the same direction.
Got it. And kind of the flashlight, I'm guessing, is more of a initial alert, kind of that there may be
Yes.
danger close, and then obviously as the danger gets closer, the other functionality kind of comes into play, the pepper spray, and then obviously the stunner. And hopefully you don't get to the last one. Obviously, that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, hopefully not. So that's the goal of this product and why I designed it the way I did.
And I guess, were you in a situation where you felt that only having pepper spray or only having, a whistle or a light or a stun gun, only having one of those options was kind of obsolete, in the sense that, to your point about distance, if somebody avoids the pepper spray or whatever, you're kind of out of luck. Like you've kind of shot your shot and now you've got no other option. So having a multi distance alert or protection system is potentially the better way to go.
Yeah, I actually had one of my scenarios in college. I was walking home from the library late one night, and a car actually followed me down the road. I was like, it was pretty late. Like I was coming home around 11 midnight, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one little pepper spray, which pepper spray is a great self-defense tool. But the car, I saw that there were probably about 3 men or 4 men in the car. I couldn't exactly see because it was so dark out. And the problem with that is, if, say all 3 of them charged me for whatever reason, it's unlikely that the pepper sprays, I'm going to be able to hit each one of them in the face with the pepper spray. So I did find, there's a lot of situations too where if the wind is blowing too hard and you try to spray the pepper spray, it may never hit your intended target. So there are
situations. Blow back on yourself also.
Exactly. And then you can't see. So that's the great thing about the stunner. You can see it pull your trigger and you don't have to aim.
That's right.
But so that there are, I think, several scenarios where having those 2 devices, or at least some combination, is probably beneficial.
Yeah. And so this is kind of your, obviously your MVP, or actually you created the MVP, and this is kind of the result of that. And I guess you're kind of in this market validation kind of phase of your journey. What are some of the improvements maybe that you think are going to be coming in kind of additional products, as well as what other products do you offer? Do you offer just a standalone pepper spray or a stunner, if people just want to get one or the other, as far as that goes? And then I think you mentioned in your pitch that you kind of are thinking about some type of subscription with the pepper spray, because it does, I didn't realize this, but pepper spray expires in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, we do offer standalone pepper spray, and yes, it does expire. So I would say the average pepper spray lasts about 2 years. Ours technically lasts up to 4, but I would prefer it if people just swapped it out just in case every 2 years, because I think it's better to be on the safe side with that. And eventually we would like to offer a pepper spray subscription. So even if you have your stunner, or you just want to make sure you have a fresh pepper spray every, couple of years, that would be the benefit of having a subscription like that. It shows up to your door. You don't have to think about it, because I've run into a lot of people and customers who have said, oh, my pepper spray is expired. It's been expired for a while. I don't know if it'll work. And you definitely don't want to be in a situation where you need your pepper spray and it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
That's why we want to offer that. And then in terms of improvement, we are going to release some more colors of the stunner coming out. So we're probably going to offer 1 or 2 more options, because right now it comes in standard black. And then we eventually would like to work on a version 2 where maybe either we create a smaller stunner, or we work on some type of panic button, because we've gotten both of those comments about the product and what might be the best next iteration for it.
Oh yeah, because it doesn't make any noise at the moment; it just flashes. So potentially having some type of a noise feature, is that kind of what they're thinking about, or it would connect to the authorities essentially?
Yeah, so the stun gun does make a pretty loud noise. I would say it's actually even louder than some of these alarms on the market. You go look at our website. We have a video review that SafeWise did at the bottom of the website where you can hear it. But the alarm is more of like a GPS warning, potentially connected to police, networks. So something like that.
Got it. And potentially there could be a situation where you create some type of people are always like, hey, I'm leaving at this point. Like, you want to know where people are going, right? So if you're like going on a hike or something, you could say, hey, I should be back by X period of time. And so if I'm not, at least you can track, where I've been. And so potentially that could be a situation where you set up a profile of people that it alerts
Mm-hmm.
if you're, if you hit this button so that people are like, oh crap, I need to figure out where Sydney is because she panic buttoned me or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I have heard customers talk about that exact thing. And, we could either create that on our own later down the line, or there's a lot of great safety apps that already do that. And maybe we could even plug into their network.
Hmm.
But yeah, that is something I've heard from customers for future use.
When you think about kind of the target audience, and you talked a little bit about this in your pitch, like who are you selling this to? Like who's buying it? I'm just kind of curious, and I kind of have some ideas, but I'm kind of curious, kind of to get your thoughts. And maybe are there any ahas that you kind of thought differently about who may be buying it versus who is actually purchasing it?
Yeah. So initially, as a recent, somewhat recent college graduate, 20-something-year-old woman, I thought, oh, the college women are going to be all over this. And it's not that they don't want to carry a product like this. It's that, you know, they just don't always think about the safety aspect, like needing to get a product ahead of time. Like
Mm.
I talked to a recent college freshman, and she was like, oh, those are all the safety situations that you could find yourself in. Like, I had no idea. And I found that I think talking to the parents is probably better to get the product out there, because parents obviously care very much about their child's safety. And if you can get the parents at least knowing about this product, I found that they will purchase it for their daughters, for their sons. And so I really found that, yeah, parents are probably my biggest market. That was kind of an aha for me. The parents pay a little bit more attention sometimes.
Yeah, and at least from their kind of, I guess, mental side, at least they purchased it and gave it to their child and hope that they use it. Right? They can't force the child to use it, but at least they purchased it and gave it to them prior to going to college or a school trip or whatever the case is. So that makes sense. I guess as you think about kind of the business evolution and where you're going as an entrepreneur, like entrepreneur is a very ambiguous word, and you're kind of building a business. And so how did you kind of think about that as part of your journey, graduating college and be like, yep, I want to build a business versus I just want to go get a job at a company. Like, I find entrepreneurs are very kind of somewhat unique in the way that they think and the way that they think about, kind of the life that they want to live versus just punching a clock at a W-2. So talk about kind of that kind of mindset that you've had to kind of get yourself into to actually build a business.
Yeah, I'd say it's a roller coaster sometimes of feelings. Um, so when I first got introduced to startups and building your own company at UT, which is a great place to learn about that, and a lot of really smart people to talk to, um, I couldn't get the idea out of my head. It
Mm.
was something that I was just like obsessed with almost. And I know a lot of people would say that you should go, yeah, work in the industry that you want to be in for, 10, 20 years and learn about it. And I guess I get that to a certain degree, but I also had an idea ready to go. And you know, and I'm in my 20s. I don't have any major, I guess, things preventing me from being able to do this. And I said, I have a good product. What if someone makes this, while I'm working in the industry trying to learn about it? So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. I have the, you know, ambition to learn everything that I need to learn, and there's luckily a lot of very helpful mentors and people in the community that want to give you advice a lot of times just for free, just because they want to help. So, I really just kind of jumped into it. I started this after I graduated, probably about a year after I graduated. So I did work at a couple startups in Austin for a little while before starting this. But and my parents are also business owners, so
Mm.
I think that knowing that, hey, my parents opened a business and they didn't necessarily get any formal training on it, and they were successful. Why couldn't I do that? You know.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you grow up in a situation where your parents are entrepreneurs or business owners, it kind of is instilled in you a little bit where like you can
Mhm.
take some risks, and there, it also opens your eyes to there's other career avenues, right? As opposed to just going to work for a big company, you can start your own, and that can be a small or a big company down the road. I want to kind of unpack a little bit the free advice and the mentorship, because I think, you know, some people have a lot of ideas, but they don't know how to take that idea from their brain and put it on paper. And then
Mhm.
even if they get it on paper, they don't know how to like bring it to life. So can you kind of talk a little bit about some of the, and you don't need to name names necessarily, but some of the key kind of help you've received, as a recent graduate, to take your idea and put it down on paper and then get it in the hands of, a manufacturing company to actually manufacture, and through that whole process, because it seems daunting versus, I have a recruiting business. I'm a good recruiter. It's very black and white. It's pretty simple. So I'm just fascinated kind of how that journey went, and the support you got from people that are, like you said, strangers that you don't know, that they just wanted to help.
Yeah, I think putting yourself out there is step number one, because, like you saw at the pitch I did the other night, if you don't put yourself out there in those types of situations, no one's ever going to offer you help. So,
Mm.
my suggestion would be go to in person events, go meet people, go talk to people, go be put in a scary situation where you have to explain your idea in front of people you don't know. You'd be surprised how many people reach out and want to help you. And then so many people out there also have already done things like what you're trying to do. And, in terms of like, I know people who have built products before and they're trying to help me and tell me what I need to look out for. And then I know people who have run a CPG startup and want to give advice. I think you put yourself out there, put yourself in those in person situations, and then immediately take them up on their offer
Right.
uh, to give you advice or help, because you don't want to let that opportunity to talk with them slip away. And honestly, the more expert, I'm going to call them experts because it's people who have run businesses and been successful at it. The more you talk to, the more detailed questions you can start refining it down to actually help your business. Because I think it starts off with a lot of general questions, and I found the most helpful is when you finally get to ask those really detailed questions, when you figure out what kind of questions you need to ask. So, and that takes time.
Yeah. And, going from paper to a product, so how did you get the actual physical product created, or kind of initially created? Are there, I'm assuming there are businesses out there that kind of help you think through and say, okay, if you want to do this, we can build a 3D model potentially that can show you what it could look like. And then you've got to build the functionality into it. Like, how did the paper idea of the stunner start and then get created into an actual product? How did that process work?
Yeah, so I did engineering at school.
Okay.
So that is really important for me to understand, like, physically where things in a product would need to go to function. Like at UT, they make you do a lot of like 3D spatial things where you have to determine where things go and what it looks like. So I started off creating the plastic prototypes myself, and then I contracted. You basically pay a company to print your file and then ship it to you, because I don't own a 3D printer. I probably
Mm.
should. Um, so I started off doing that, and then I also was just ordering parts for the stun gun and the flashlight, and kind of learning what are standard parts out there for these things, how it would go together, does it fit in my product the way I envision it, kind of, and then you put it together at least best you can and see how it would function. And so that's kind of how I started. I literally just was ordering parts and then my own 3D models, and putting them together myself, and then iterating on that. And eventually, I did hire engineers to help me with the manufacturable version, of course, because I don't have that expertise yet. And there are lots of people that can do it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to kind of get out of this was a little bit around kind of talent in startups, right? It doesn't have to always be employees.
Mhm.
A lot of the key talent that you needed to work with are mentors and people that you didn't know, and people that just poked holes in your initial idea, which help you refine the idea, right? So how right now, I don't know how many people you have kind of in the business or that are part
Mhm.
of your business, but what are some of the key people that you think, one that you have in the business now, and maybe you think that as you get through your first year, you're going to want to kind of include as you want to scale this business?
Yeah. So right now I have basically I've been working with contractors this whole time just because we're running lean at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't want to hire anyone or bring anyone on that I'm not sure is the right partner, if that makes sense. So I contracted out for helping finish the plastic for manufacturing, and I worked with a local company in Austin called Gemba. They have a lot of great talent, that was important because they brought a lot of really smart things to my attention that I think made the product a lot better. And then same with our electrical engineers to ensure the stun gun met my requirements for strength and safety. So we have I've had multiple manufacturing and prototyping contracting partners, and it's finding those people was a little bit of luck in a way and recommendations. So you don't always know when you first start working with someone if they're going to be a good fit for you. I think I started working with one of the contractors initially and pretty quickly decided that was not, who I wanted to go with. But yeah, so right now we're all contractor based, and I was very careful about picking who I wanted to help build this product, and then eventually we do want to hire, or I do want to hire people specifically in helping product market fit in our this very early growth stage. I think finding someone who has experience and who has been doing that for a while would be really beneficial as compared to my lack of experience in that area. And so that would probably be the first type of talent or person that I really would be on the look for in this next year.
Got it. And yeah, let's talk about the next year. I mean, obviously, you have a product, you're selling it, you're generating revenue. It sounds like a lot of it is kind of online, but you also now have a retail partner that you're working with, which is great. So I guess, if we jumped on a podcast 12 months from now, in February 2026, like where would you want to get to at that point from a business perspective?
Well, I hope you see me in a lot more stores coming up. A lot of people buy their self-defense products when they go into a retail store. So think
Okay.
like Cabela's, Academy, places like that. So hopefully you'd see us on some store shelves. And then in terms of other business opportunities, we have some other avenues we want to pursue besides just online sales. That can be very saturated when it comes to self-defense products. We're even kind of looking at seeing if we can make maybe a heavier duty version of our product for some other uses. So I think seeing another version of the product with a different market, application would probably be where I'd want, hopefully, you to see us in about 12 months.
Got it. That sounds scary and fascinating all at the same time. A heavier duty stunner. I can only imagine who may be the target audience for that product. So it could be
Well,
interesting.
the great thing about the stunner is it is less lethal. So this product is really used for temporarily stopping someone from hurting or attacking someone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. And so, we talked about this already, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of people out there that have ideas, right? And they,
Mhm.
I've had ideas that I haven't pursued, and then I see them pop up, and I'm like, oh gosh, somebody did it, and it's like it can be very frustrating. And so, I guess if somebody's listening to this and they have an idea, maybe they've had it for a while, or they just got it, 10 minutes before the podcast, listening to the podcast, what's some of the advice that you would kind of talk about or share with them to say, hey, this is what you should do next, and some of the things that you did and maybe that you were told to do, and maybe just
Mhm.
some of the lessons learned that you would give somebody to start their idea?
Yeah, I would say before you spend too much money on your idea that you have, go interview people, like do an
Mm,
in-depth interview of your potential customers and their willingness to pay for your idea. Um, and even if possible, see if people will pre-purchase your idea, depending on, I guess what you're trying to make. Because I found that at least through all the startups that I've seen go through UT and then now in this Austin startup space, the ones that die out are because I don't think there's an actual high enough demand for the product or the idea. So that's kind of why I called this last year kind of our market validation phase, because even though I had done all that and spent a lot of money prototyping the product, you still don't really know till people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, interview who your customer is. And I would suggest interviewing as many as you can and ask them open-ended questions.
Yeah, that's fascinating because some people, and I've definitely been in this scenario where you have this idea and in your brain, and to you, it's a great idea, right? It's like, oh my God, why hasn't nobody thought about that? And then when you start talking to people about it, you realize that it may not be a problem, right? You're trying to solve something that isn't a problem. And maybe it's a problem to you, but to zero other people, right? And so nobody's gonna actually pay you for your solution, whether it's a software or a hardware piece of hardware. So I definitely like that idea, and it hurts when people shoot down your idea and poke holes in your idea, which is part of being an entrepreneur and part of being a startup founder. Is you've got to be able to almost not take it as personally as you probably do, right? Because if you have this idea and you're like, you don't like my idea, you call my baby ugly kind of thing, right? So you've got to have a little bit of thick skin and realize that it's not for everybody, but there hopefully will be a big enough, audience to purchase your product regardless of what it is. That's super fascinating. Sydney, this has been great. I really appreciate kind of you joining the podcast and sharing your journey. And I'm really excited to kind of see, the evolution of where you go from here. And hopefully we'll have you on in a year from now. We can talk all about your heavy duty version of the stunner. And
we'll see. Timelines always get pushed back.
That's right. But, at least setting goals is a way to, achieve bigger things, right? So, if you set a small goal, you may achieve a small goal. But if you set a really, really big goal, and if you don't get the full way there, it's better than setting a really small target. So, I would like to end the podcast like I do with every other guest. So I've got a 3-pack of questions that we'll run through right now. So question 1 is share maybe an influential book or podcast that you've listened to that may be helpful to the audience.
Yeah, for anyone who's listening to or wants to work, do something in hardware or physical products, I would suggest the Product Startup podcast. They haven't been posting much recently, but he's done some great interviews with people who have done this all before, and they even include how to market your physical product. I think it's a great podcast to listen to.
Awesome. Very cool. What is your favorite thing to do outside of work?
My favorite thing to do outside of work is mostly just spend time with family and friends. I find that when you're in the roller coaster world of entrepreneurship, it's great to just have quality time with people.
Yeah, when you can spare it, right? Because when you're doing a million things and you're working across different time zones, especially when you're getting your product across the globe, I imagine that's a lot of late nights and early morning phone calls and all that stuff. So, Got it. Well, next question: favorite vacation spot, if and when you have time to do that.
Well, I love Mexico. Mexico is a great place to go for a vacation. I think it's really relaxing. I haven't been back in a little while, but a great local vacation spot, Wimberley, Texas, if anyone has been.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's just outside of Austin. It's a very cute hill country town. Very,
very cool. Well, thank you very much. If people want to learn more about you and stunner safety, like what's the best way to get you? And we'll add some of the stuff in the show notes if it's easy access for them.
Yeah, you can contact me directly through the Stunner Safety website. I look and respond to all those messages. Or you guys can contact me on my LinkedIn. My name is Sydney Marvin. Just search me up, and then my company, Stunner Safety.
Awesome. Sydney, it was awesome to have you on. I really appreciate it. We'll make sure all this stuff is in the show notes so it's easy access for anybody that wants to get in touch with you. But thank you for being on.
Thank you so much, Justin. I really enjoyed it.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.